Hey familia, Igni here. The Shadowcraft Omen and his followers, as well as a completely new mechanic, have been revealed. So let's talk about it. Servant of Silence here, fanfare enhance 6, gain +3/+3, remove all effect from an enemy follower except changes to its attack or defense. Yeah, I'm not too impressed by this thing, right? It's like basically a vanilla 2-drop or a 5/5 on 6. I think that the silence effect of removing effects from an enemy follower doesn't seem that impactful right now. Especially when it doesn't take into account buffs, and there's a lot of buff cards in this expansion as well. So it seems like it's a tech card that doesn't do enough to justify running it in a constructed deck. Disciple of Silence, the silver card here. 3 play point 1/4 silver follower with ward, fanfare, enhance 6, gain +3/+3. Clash, if the enemy follower has Storm or Rush, give it -2 attack. There's a lot of 3s in these cards because I think this is the third Omen. Sort of a tech card against something that the opponent could do. That's kind of the theme of Silence here, is sort of negating enemy effects. I think this is a lot more interesting than the Bronze. 3 play point 1/4 ward is but 6 play point 4/7 ward is pretty good. Blocks like a Zeta from passing through you, so you can use this to protect the rest of your board. Originally I was gonna say that this might not necessarily be good in constructed, but very good in take 2, just because it's more of a standalone kind of card, and the versatility and stats of this thing make it pretty powerful in arena. But then I remembered that in constructed, this has a lot of game against puppets, because puppets have rush, and when they are Noad, they have storm. And just in general, I think Shadowcraft is getting a lot of pretty good tempo tools coming up, and it's not just bound to this whole Arcus combo thing. At least I hope so when the expansion comes out. And this can end up being a really good defensive tool against more aggressive decks that we might see coming out, like Bloodcraft and the like. So I think this card is actually pretty dang solid. Next up here we have the Apostle of Silence, the 4 play point 3/4 gold follower. Fanfare, destroy an enemy follower with ward. This is actually pretty cool. It's a tech card that can slice open really valuable cards in the current meta, like De La Fie, for example. And otherwise it is just an on-curve follower, which isn't, you know, great, but does have that utility of being able to remove an impactful thing on the enemy's board. What kind of gives me pause is that only Shadowcraft is getting all these tech options, which I'm not sure if I agree with that design philosophy, but as a card, this is quite okay. What I do like is that they seem to be printing cards that are answering really problematic decks in the current metagame. Like a card like this that slices open a De La Fie or slices open a Robo-Me is really good to start being able to fight back against the decks that currently dominate the meta. Speaking of that thing that I just said, Rulenye, Omen of Silence, 3 play point 3/3, the Legendary Omen for Shadowcraft. Fanfare Necromancy 3 until the start of your next turn. Spells in your opponent's hand cost 3 more play points. So not only is it an overstatted 3-drop on curve, but it's also a Loatheb. It prevents your opponent from playing spells, essentially. This card is insane. Like, it's absolutely bonkers. And again, it's that thing where these tech cards are being solely given to Shadow. It's a bit strange, but I guess that's the whole theme of Silence in the end. Maybe if this was a universal effect, it would really be oppressive, but because it's limited to Shadowcraft, it's gonna be less, so we can only hope. But I think this card is very, very, very strong. What I do like is that this does add counterplay to spell-based strategies, which didn't really have. Something you can do to prevent their game plan from going off a lot of the time. Of course, Runecraft comes to mind. What I'm not so certain about is how exactly it interacts with different spell mechanics. Like, for example, if you spell boost a Fiery Embrace 12 times, and you activate Rulenye, I'm pretty sure it still costs 0. Or does it? And on spells that have an enhance effect, like say they use Rulenye on your Force of the Dragonid, for example, do you pay 6 play points for the 3 play point effect? Or can you navigate around it and then play 5 play points for the enhance effect? Another example is Waters of the Orca. So you have 6 play points, they play Rulenye, and you have Waters of the Orca in hand. Can you just play it for the 6 play point enhance, ignoring the 5 cost debuff that Rulenye gave it? I don't know. If you know, let me know in the comments below, because I have no idea. We'll have to see. Moving on up, we got the Bloodthirsty Hamster, 2 play point 1/3 bronze Bloodcraft follower. Whenever your leader takes damage for the first time on each of your turns, gain +1/+0. It's a blooded hedgehog. It's very good. If you play this on turn 2 with a Perish, it's a 2 play point 2/3, which is of course insane. A lot of Bloodcraft right now is self-damaging regardless. It makes this an easy slot in to decks that want to do that kind of thing in the first place. So you just put this into that kind of deck and it becomes a really strong tempo follower. And again, 3 defense on 2 is strong, and we've proven that historically. And here's that new mechanic I was talking about. Invocation allows you to play cards directly from your deck by satisfying specific requirements. even if you have multiple copies of the same card, activating Invocation will only put one copy into play, and thank goodness for that, because otherwise that would be kind of ridiculous, right? To demonstrate why that would be ridiculous, here's Flauros, 4 play point 5/3, Bloodcraft card. So it's overstated, but not in a way that particularly matters that much. What really matters, though, is that it's overstated for a 0 play point card, because the Invocation is that during your turn, if your leader has taken damage for the 4th time this turn, put a Flauros from your deck into play, and last words restore 3 defense to your leader, or last words restore 5 defense to your leader. So the effect itself is already a better Happy Pig, and you're gonna get it for 0 play points, because what you can do is, early on in the game, you can just play Perish, 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 Bloodkin, and then you can get a turn 1 Flauros if you really want. That seems high roll, right? But less so on turn 2 and 3, and being able to thin your deck and get a really big threat on the board that has synergistic effects with the deck you're running is supremely powerful. So I think this mechanic is very strong as a whole already, and I think Flauros specifically, already the first card that demonstrates this mechanic, is a perfect example of why. This card is very powerful, especially since Bloodcraft is already looking to do all this self-damaging stuff. Their Omen revolves around it, Jormungand already revolves around it, and Flauros and Blooded Hedgehog as well is just making this whole package a lot stronger. So, well, I mean, it's good to see that they're strengthening Bloodcraft in rotation, I suppose, but this could become very, very scary very quickly. And the other card that is an Invocation card here, the Prophetess of Creation. This is a doozy. So it's a Runecraft Legendary, the 20 play point 2020 card. Accelerate 10, draw a card, put a Prophetess of Creation into your deck, recover 9 play points. Alright, so when you get to 10, you can sort of just try and get a do-over to summon this again by shuffling it back in. And Invocation, at the end of your turn, put a Prophetess of Creation from your deck into play if you've played cards that originally cost 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9, and 10 play points this match. Can't be targeted by enemy spells and effects, can't be destroyed by spells and effects. Wow, this is certainly a card. Very Timmy. On first glance, it seems like it's really difficult to pull off, but I think you'll be surprised at how easy it is. Well, maybe not easy, but it's a lot less difficult than you think, because when you play a spell boost card, the original cost can fit into these higher play point stuff. Flame Destroyer costs 10, for example. Fiery Embrace costs 8. Insight on 1, anything on 2, anything on 3, like Concentration. Cagliostro. 5 is Fate's Hand, of course. 6 would be Truth's Education, which is really good. 7 play points you can play Snowman King, of course. And 8 would obviously be Fiery Embrace. 9 could be Giant Chimera. And then 10 could be Flame Destroyer, and then boom, you've summoned a Prophetess of Creation. 9 could maybe be Proto-Bahamut. I'm actually not entirely sure how the Accelerate works with this kind of thing. Like, so if I accelerate the Prophetess on 10, will it summon it if I haven't played a 10 play point card? If I recall correctly, in the card history when you play the game, it'll list the accelerated card for the accelerated cost, not the original cost, which might make things a little trickier. But if the case is that you play the accelerated card and the original cost of the follower card is registered for this effect, then you can play even that Omen 7 play point card that accelerates for 2 for the 7 cost here, and you can play Proto-Bahamut on 7 for the 9 cost as well. Of course, the earlier you get this out, the more ridiculous it is. And imagine this thing in Unlimited, right? In Unlimited, you can play Daria for 9. You can play Enchanted Sword for 7. So this gets real scary in Unlimited. You can also cheat it out in Unlimited with Ginger. Yeah, that'd be ridiculous, right? You play Ginger on turn 9. You can play 3 Prophetess of Creations. Beware of that. That's terrifying. So I think this card, on first glance, seems very slow, but has very scary implications, especially if Runecraft gets these tools. And it's one of these cards that, if it's not good right now, the more cards Runecraft gets, man, if it fills any of these slots, this card is always in the back of your mind. How can you make this work? Because it is one hell of a body. The good news is that it does get countered by Tartman. So, Tartman meta incoming. Well, those are my thoughts on the new cards revealed here. Let me know your thoughts in the comments down below. Like the video if you did, don't if you didn't. Subscribe for more Shadowverse content and Omen of the 10 hype in the very near future. And of course, thank you to my wonderful patrons, patreon.com/Ignideus. If you'd like to support the channel as well, I would highly appreciate it. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.